Honestly, it's like I like to suffer. So you know how in the last video, we finally sorted through all of those scraps? Yeah, we're getting those back out. So last week I was tidying up my studio and I found that orange corduroy waistband from the skirt I turned into the Edwardian belt. And I had this idea of using that waistband on a patchwork skirt from all of my scrap fabrics. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, which is actually really annoying because I had a different project lined up for this week, but now I have a brainworm and it must be satisfied. Can you tell that I'm trying to use every corner of my studio because I can now? So for this skirt, I'm picturing a tiered patchwork skirt. I don't want the tiers to be even though, hopefully some lace and trims on there too. I want it to have a whimsy goth / autumn color palette. And I'm thinking at least one tier of it, probably one of the thinner ones. I want it to be in a more Frankenstein styled patchwork design. And it must have pockets. Pockets are non-negotiable. I'm going to need to find that orange waistband, considering that is the whole foundation of this project. It would be ideal if I had a vessel for the fabrics I'm picking out. I've got a reusable stripy bag. This is actually my thrifting bag, so it's appropriate. Oh wait, I need 2 vessels, don't I? I also have a gift bag. We're gonna call that good enough. I sorted the potential fabrics into 2 bags, one for everything that was already a perfect color, and the other for fabric I was considering dyeing to match a more whimsy goth color palette. Found it! Having the waistband made this step much easier because I could start to pick out fabrics that complemented the orange corduroy. I think that is actually not a bad color palette. And I really hope that's enough fabric to get a skirt out of, because if it's not, that would be insane. I also have some in the bag here to dye a little bit darker and to just dull some of the colors in some of these. But yeah, I think we have a really good selection. I think I'm gonna get these ones cut out before I dye any fabric, because if there's enough here to do the whole skirt, I might skip the fabric dyeing bit. And that is only partially motivated by the fact that when I went downstairs to make my hot chocolate, I realized how messy the kitchen was and I would have to clean it before getting all the dye stuff out, which is so much extra work. This is taking me so long to work out, but here are all the numbers. So we have the rough template of the skirt. First tier needs 8 squares. Second tier is the crazy strip, so that just needs to be all higgledy-piggledy together with all of the scrap bits. Tier 3 needs 17 squares, and tier 4 needs between 14 and 18 squares. As tier 1 only had 8 squares, I could only choose 8 pieces of fabric to use in it, and the balance of colour, texture and patterns had to be perfect. And to make my life easier, as I don't have any quilting rulers or anything, I cut out some templates for each size square that I needed. I didn't realise until afterwards that these tier 1 squares were meant to be 8x6, not 8x8, so I did trim them down later on. Oh, this combination makes my brain so insanely happy. There are 3 of those fabrics that I'm going to back onto some cotton or an interfacing, basically just whatever I can find, because they're either stretchy or they're a little bit see-through, so it's not ideal for the top tier of the skirt, but if I back it onto something to make it a bit more structured, it'll be fine. I loved the first tier so much that I decided to use only those 8 fabrics on the rest of the skirt too, with the other tiers having 2 to 3 of the same fabrics repeated. Not to be dramatic or anything, but you might have just been witness to the birth of my new personality because I love this. I haven't even been counting these, I've just been enjoying cutting them out so much. So this is tier 3 and I need 17. 17, that is creepily spot on. And tier 4 needs 18. 19, bonus one. I'm happy for there to be an extra one in there. Oh, that means I'm done. Which means right now, all of the thinner fabrics I need to back onto some cotton. And then all of this fabric, I should probably do the edges on. I don't have an overlocker, but I do have a zigzag setting on my machine, and that is gonna have to be good enough. There has been a slight change of plan. I've decided that the plain black velvet squares I cut out, I'm now gonna switch out for a different fabric. I was a little worried these were just gonna look like little black voids of darkness and not in a good way. And I loosely started to wonder what if I could make them a little bit more textured or colorful by doing some embroidery on them. And then I remembered that I already have that fabric. And that's this, and it's beautiful. And I know this is technically cheating because this isn't scraps, this is just fabric. Well, technically, it's actually like a shawl scarf wrap thingy that I thrifted. So it's still upcycling, so it still kind of counts. This is just gonna work so great as the little patches, because like, look at the designs on this. That flower is going to look amazing on one of the bigger patches. And this little square design is the exact same size as the smaller squares. It was fate. I'm gonna redo those in this instead. But then we'll move on with joining them all together. I've prepped all of the squares. I haven't zigzag stitched around all of them, but I have gone through the fabrics that are either see-through or stretchy, some cotton backings onto them all, and zigzag stitched around those to join them together. I kind of figured for the rest of the fabrics, I'm probably just gonna zigzag stitch them as I'm joining everything together, so that way everything gets neatened off nicely. And I've realized the top tier has 8 rectangles and they're all a different fabric, so it does matter what order I put them in a little bit, I think. This is the order I've settled on. I've tried to distance the similar colours and make sure that the first and last squares will go well together. Oh, this skirt is gonna be so cute. Look at that. I love that combination of fabrics. I'm gonna go through and zigzag stitch both of those edges together as well, just as I'm going. Beautiful. I love patchwork so much. Like, just come look at this. Come look at this. This combination is just so pleasing to my brain, and it's gonna look so cute in skirt form. I just can't take it. We're going to skip tier 2 for now because that's going to be the crazy tier, and we're gonna do the exact same process with tiers 3 and tiers 4 and get all of the big strips assembled today. And then I'm going to let you in on what my other plans for this skirt are. As before, I took my time to figure out an order for the squares that I was happy with. So I have my 3 tiers done and they're looking adorable. I still have one more tier to do because I need to do the crazy tier, but before we jump onto that, I just wanted to tell you my plans for the lining. I wanted the skirt to have a bit of a layered look, so I'm kind of going to use my lining as sort of a petticoat layer as well. And I have a bunch of black cotton, which I'm hoping will be enough here to do pretty much the same shape that I'm doing on top, just another tiered rectangle kind of thing, just to give the skirt a bit more like volume. The main reason why I wanted to do this is because I wanted a lace trim on the bottom of the skirt. I realized I wanted it to look more layered than just putting the trim onto the skirt itself. So the trim is going to go on the lining and it's going to show underneath the skirt. Almost the perfect trim for it. And I say almost because the trim itself is beautiful, except for the fact it's got sequins all over it that I really, really don't like. So I've spent a while cutting all of the sequins off of this trim to turn it into this beautiful embroidered purple lace, which is going to look so pretty coming out from underneath the skirt. But before I cut all the sequins off, it looked like this. Which is still nice for very specific uses, but for what I'm going for, it was a little bit too disco. So I much prefer it without all the sequins on. It's been very time consuming because I've had to actively cut the sequins and make sure I'm not cutting any of the thread off because it would just unravel everything if I do that. But it has worked, and so far I've cut, I'd guess, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 meters of sequins off. And there's just this like pile of dragon scales on my living room floor from where I've just been sat on the sofa cutting them off. That pile isn't actually all of it because I've been hoovering in intervals, so that's like the 4th pile I have generated. They are also definitely making their way to everywhere else in the house, so that's fun. I changed my mind about basically everything. Okay, not everything, but I laid out the 3 patchwork tiers that I made on the table and it looks really cute, and then I put a little bout on top and then I put some little trims and lacy bits on it too, and I love it so much as it is, and I'm now thinking I no longer want to do the crazy Frankenstein tier anymore because I don't want to risk ruining the balance that is just already there, and I really like it. So we have our 3 different tiers laid out, and then the purple underneath looks gorgeous, and I think that's going to be really cute, and therefore does not need the Frankenstein tier because it really works well as it is, and I would wear that. And with that being the new plan, I think we can go ahead and start joining these tiers together. I should probably put some gather stitches in the top of the tier first so then I can pull it. Yeah, we got too excited. I decided to hand stitch the gathers as my luck with machine gathering is temperamental at best. Then I adjusted the gathers to the length of the top tier and clipped together the seam allowances. Oh yeah, this is gonna be so great when it's done. I repeated these steps for the 3rd tier, previously known as the 4th tier, but now we're only doing 3. Next, I decided to stitch the black trim onto the seam line between the 2nd and 3rd tiers, and I cannot tell you how much I love this trim. Truly, I think it's gorgeous. Skirt is now looking like an actual skirt. Bottom still needs hemming and it doesn't have the purple lace on it yet because I still think I'm going to attach the purple lace to the lining so it can have a layered look. I think I'm going to sort out the waistband now. I need to get rid of the excess and then reseal it so the edges are neat. And I might have to take off the belt loops just so I can attach it to the main skirt and the lining and then reattach the belt loops back in because the belt loops actually come down lower than the waistband. If we take a closer look, you see how it kind of comes just under that waistband line on all of them. I have already cut off the excess, as seen here. Turns out I didn't actually hit the record button when I did that, so I filmed cutting the loops instead, so I at least had some waistband footage. I haven't sewn it yet, this is just held up with clips. But I think I actually do want to put the purple lace directly onto the skirt rather than the lining. I think I love the way it's kind of fitted around the hips and then it flares out with the ruffles on the bottom. And with the lining, if I put the purple lace onto that, I'm worried that the purple lace fall too far away from the ruffles of how they kind of stick out, and I don't want that. So I think it'll look best if I do actually put the lace directly onto the bottom tier of the skirt. So I'm going to do that now instead. But of course, I did still need to join the waistband and the lining on first. So I was just putting the lining on and I realised that this would make a really nice reversible skirt. So that's happening now, and that is the last pivot of the project, I promise. I now needed my lining to look like an actual skirt, so I used the remainder of the black trim from earlier between the two tiers. I thought it would be a nice mirror design to the patchwork skirt, and I also used the purple lace on this after all as well, but I did make sure it was longer than the patchwork skirt so you could still get the purple lace worn both ways, and luckily this lace looks great from both sides. I present skirt 1 and skirt 2. Happy with my second skirt layer, I joined it to the waistband, following the exact stitch line as the first layer so that the waistband would look neat on both sides. And then finally, I picked out some buttons for the fastening. I went with a mismatch of 2 green and 2 brown buttons. I wanted 2 on each side so that the waistband would be adjustable, and I really like the idea of the buttons being slightly different given the upcycled nature of the skirt. And with that complete, we are on to the results. Got a little post-shoot picnic. Thank you for shooting it.
You're welcome.
Food. It must have pockets. Pockets are non-negotiable. Turns out they were negotiable. I always forget to put pockets in. Honestly, it's like I like to suffer. This might just be my most favourite garment I have ever made. And not just because the patchwork was really fun to do, just in terms of something I now have to wear. This might actually be my favourite. It is definitely not without its flaws. For example, on the lining side of the skirt, I had like barely enough trim to go around it. So where the seam lines meet, it basically doesn't. Even that is better than it was, because when I first joined up the sides, the gap was like that big, so I kind of just angled it in to meet as close as I could get away with it. But I do love this skirt. It's so comfortable to wear. I think both sides of it are really fun for different looks. I love that this side of it is just like a really voluminous twirly skirt, but then the patchwork side of it is a little bit more fitted and has that kind of like, is it like an early 2000s style to have that short little ruffle out? I feel like I had skirts like that when I was a kid, so it must have been. I also had the loose idea of, with the black side of the skirt, I could do loads of embroidery patches and then patch them onto the skirt, so that way both sides of the skirt would still be a type of patchwork. But I didn't know if that was just too much. If there even is such a thing as too much. Let me know which side of the skirt is your favourite. Let me know if you've been doing some patchwork projects or have ever done some patchwork projects, because I think I'm really getting into it and I would love to see what you guys are up to and what kind of projects you've come up with in this regard. For anyone who has joined the free membership on my Patreon and has joined in on the group chat on that, you'll know that we've been showing some pictures of our patchworks in the chat this week, so feel free to join in on that, even with just some inspirations of patchworks you think might be cool to make, because I am looking for more ideas. I do still have 2 huge boxes of scraps to get through. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed this video and this project. Thank you so very much for watching along. Feel free to leave me a comment down below, because you guys know how much I love to chat with you all. And I will see you all in my next video. I feel like I've started to forget to tell people to like and subscribe. I just get so excited to talk about comments and conversations. I skip that part. Please like and subscribe.
Pause for effect.